So, where will you go from here?
The brainchild behind everything. Hey Jay, how you doing today?
Good.
Terrell, Big Gold Belt Media. How they get you involved in this? Like, what was the pitch for to get you on board?
So my buddy, who's a voice actor, also a writer, Matt Yang King, we were collaborating on a couple projects, and he said, "Hey, have you ever read Cradle?" And I'm like, "What is that? Is it a book about babies?" and he's like, "No, it's it's by Wight. You should check this out, right? It'd be a great kind of like make into an animated series." So I found it on Audible. I listened to the first 3 books, and I called my manager and I said, "Find out who has the rights to this, right?" And so my manager, contacted the Wights. Said, "Hey, Jay Oliva is interested, in kind of talking to you guys." And it's funny. So I get on a call with the Wights, and I do my normal spiel because again, I'm the CEO and the owner of my studio. I do a lot of hustling, but I have to do this a lot. So I do my spiel. "Hi, I'm Jay Oliva. I'm an executive producer. Blah blah blah." I go through my kind of filmography, and then Will stops me, like, maybe like a quarter way in. He's like, "Jay," he's like, "I know who you are, and I'm a big fan. I saw your name on the email, and I had to meet you." And then at that point, I thought to myself, this meeting's gonna go well.
Yeah.
And so I basically, pitched them the idea of like, let's translate Cradle into an animated series. But I told them for the fans, let's do it as if it's a director's cut, or a director's cut in terms of writer's cut. Have him look at it, because he wrote that 7 years ago, look back at the series and like ask himself, okay, now that I'm retelling it, what kind of things would you do differently? What would you plant seeds earlier that you later pay off? So he got excited about that, being able to kind of revisit and work. But I told him, I don't want to change it. Like I told him, I was like, I'm a fan and I 100% want to do the books justice, but I want you as the creative to look back at your baby and be like, okay, what could I smooth out here, or what could I do differently? That as a fan, I would pick his brain and be like, what would you change? Tell me more, right? And so that's how it all kind of got about. I got him excited, and we were super excited about this project.
Man, it's so many people that I've talked to that you've been involved with that always has nothing but good things to say about you, man. Like they always say, like you come in, you don't you don't try to take over. Like you actually work with them and get it where it needs to be. So it's good to hear like that went well.
Well, I mean, I think the main thing is this: is that when you're in a position like me, when I'm adapting something like Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns or Flashpoint Paradox, it's a matter of understanding why it's so beloved. So like Flashpoint Paradox, I'm so busy at the time I hadn't read the comics. So when I was assigned the script, I did a lot of research. I checked the forums. I read the entire series, all of the 26 comics from different series. I read it all, and then I really tried to understand why it was so beloved. And then I stepped back and asked myself, as a filmmaker and as a storyteller, what do I like about it? And then I kind of translate that. So the versions you see, like for example, Dark Knight Returns, is my love letter to the 10-year-old Jay Oliva who read that book and just changed my life, right? And so what you saw me translate there was just my love for that medium, and not wanting to change it, but at the same time understanding that it is a different medium. It's in animation, and it's a very different kind of flow, and making sure that the beats that I know and love is there, but also the fact that it also progresses smoothly as a film.
Right.
It's like the collaborative process between you guys. Like if you really truly feel something, do you put your foot down, or like how do you work that out?
What's funny is that the Wights are amazing to collaborate with. So I actually, when we knew that we were going to move forward, I flew out to Florida to them, and I spent a week with them, and I just picked his brain. I asked him tons of questions. Now I hadn't finished the book series at the time. I was only about like 5 books in. So I told him, don't give me any spoilers, but how do you see these characters? And I would draw in front of him the characters and say, does this look like what you're thinking? The great thing was that like Will really let me kind of like spread my wings in terms of like what I wanted to kind of, what I saw in my head. I originally asked him, was like, hey, there's a lot of art online, from fan art, as well as I think some of the books had some artwork. I was like, do you want me to follow that or do you want me to do my own thing? He's like, just do your own thing. So I purposely I didn't look at anything, and so if you looked at the poster, I just took what I love from 90s anime, and I was like, this is what I want. I love classic 90s anime, that look and feel of like, this is like Escaflowne, Record of Lotus War, like that is what I was trying to go for, and I wanted to kind of do an animated series because that's what I saw in my head when I read the books, and I wanted to kind of do that. So every kind of project I do, I always try to find a new kind of art style, and that's kind of how I approach that. But yeah, the Wight's fantastic. And I have Will on speed dial, so every now and then I'll be like, hey, is it cool if I do this? But he's been like, sometimes he'll be like, I didn't think about that. What would you do? And I said, okay, this is what I'll do. He said, that sounds good.
It's funny you mentioned Escaflowne. That's such a deep cut. Like, I don't think anybody here but me and people know that. I mean, like, the animation style was so crisp. Yes. You could tell like how that was drawn in there, like the way the robot and Vaughn and everybody in that series is done. That was got me even more hyped for this as a whole, just knowing that you even referenced that.
Oh yeah.
How, like I said, Will talked about like some of the animation style, but besides Escaflowne, what other references will this show have? Because like I said, I noticed the characters kind of had like a Fire Emblem kind of style to them as far as like how they look. What other references to anime will we see?
I mean, of course, again, all the 90s references of like Cowboy Bebop and like Escaflowne, Record of Lotus War, all the stuff like. So from an anime standpoint, that's what I was going for stylistically, with beautiful painted backgrounds. But the thing is, I wanted to kind of modernize in some ways, where in terms of the action, in terms of the kind of camera movements, since it's all computer now, we can do a lot more things that you couldn't do in the past. And so what I wanted to do was have this kind of classic kind of look, 90s look, but bring it up to date to what you would kind of see with like the really more crazier anime, like like Naruto or Spy Family, that kind of stuff. The action, the camera work, it's like more live action, and that's kind of what I was thinking about doing, and I've always wanted to do.
Like I said, you're a man of 1,000 jobs. Like I'm surprised. You say the time that you have. Like I said, when we see you here every year, you got a different project attached to it. Like I know, obviously, you work with them, you work with Will and everybody. What is outside of like kind of being the guiding hand here? What do you have any additional roles in on this project?
I mean, so not only did I executive producer, I had to like pitch it to them and say, hey, let's do this. Yeah. I directed, so the sizzle reel you see, I directed. If we make this into a series, I'm directing the Kickstarter movie that we're doing right now, and I'm also storyboarding it. But as a series, I would bring in my crew. My studio produced the sizzle reel that you saw, and basically I do everything. Luckily, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now, so like I've worked at a lot of different studios. Yeah. The one thing that I love is I have a studio that I own, I run, and what I tell all of my artists is that I'm working for you guys. Is that like every job I get I'm not looking at like, I'm making some money. It's more about I get to hang out with my friends for another year or two every project I get. And for me, that is something that I want them to understand that for me it's about keeping the family together and just working on projects that I like. Because I would work at different studios and be like, I'm working on something cool like Batman, and the next season, here's Polly Pockets. I'm like, okay, I gotta pay the bills, right? Whereas at this studio, I can go after things that I know and love. So I went after Cradle. We have Infinity I'm doing on Saturday. Hopefully you guys come to that. So what's great is that I can pick and choose what I wanted to work on, and I'm kind of like I actually have, I'm steering the ship to where my career goes, and also all my friends and the other artists who work with me.
I don't know how you've been doing this stuff for 30 years and you don't look older than 25, man.
I started when I was 19, so.
I was like, there's no way you talk about career experience by the time. Like I said, it's awesome. Like I say, you got your own company. Can you talk to them about getting merchandise? We talked about it, but he was like,
about what?
Merchandising, like get some toys, like for the figures for the characters and stuff like that.
Well, that's them.
Yeah.
I'm just involved in the animated series. Yeah. If they ask me if there's toys, I'd be like, sure. I worked for Mattel and I worked for Hasbro in the past, so I know a few things about toy designs and whatnot. I want statues. I know Sideshow. I'd go to Sideshow. Hey, let's get some Cradle statues. I'm sure that would be in the cards if this picks up.
Did you guys want to?
You guys want to ask me?
You got me. You might as well ask me anything you got.
What drew you to the Cradle series?
Well, I read the books, and I think for me it was the idea that you had a protagonist who had no powers in a world full of everybody having martial arts powers. I thought that was really interesting. And then him realizing that his potential can be unlimited if he just puts his mind to it, right, and focuses on it. I think to me it was something that I think everybody can kind of relate to, because I mean, when I was, like, again, I've been doing this for a long time, and if you were to tell the 19-year-old Jay Oliva that, hey, you would own an animation studio and you'd be working with, Marvel and DC and work on all these superheroes things and then work on, with authors on these books, I would say you are crazy, right? But I think the idea is that I worked very hard in my career over the years, but I was one of those type of people that I didn't be like, I want to be a director. I was more like, I'm going to be the best at what I do, and then hopefully I would get the promotion. And that's what I did. I basically worked every single job all the way up, and to me, it's more, I think it's my work ethic about like working hard and hopefully like that paying off, but not expecting it. And I think a lot of people expect it too early. And I tell my artists, because I also teach too, I've been teaching for like 20 years, I tell them my kids that don't be concerned about getting that promotion. I said, be the best that you can be, because when you get that promotion, unless you're really good at doing the job underneath you, you're gonna be like deer in the headlights. You'll be scared, which is why like when I worked for Zack Snyder on Man of Steel, when Zack called me, I was already doing superhero stuff. I was already working at Warner Brothers, and so I'm doing it with Zack, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is easy, right? Because I've done this a million times. But if I had done this and not done superheroes before, I'd be scared. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks guys.
Jay.
I give you Maxine.